What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy once again up in this piece, right? I wanted to do another video on the boring ass promo between Cody Rhodes, also known as Rody Chodes, on this channel, and Logan Paul. Now, this was not a great promo, and quite frankly, it's not worthy of a further discussion, but here I am, nevertheless, right? We're going to talk about it because I personally think it's an important promo as it highlights all the problems that are very clear with someone like Cody Rhodes. First of all, I want to preface this by saying that by no means have I always been a fan of Logan and Jake Paul. This is an important point because I think in here is another reality between the two primary forces here. Meritocracy, right? And which is the positive force, obviously, and the negative force of nepotism and entitlement. Now, Logan Paul and Jake Paul might be annoying, right? Nobody took them seriously, right? But the hater is an open-minded young man, and the hater responds to new information, right? So, when everyone thought, including the hater, that Jake Paul was going to get his ass whooped by Ben Askren, right? Because Ben Askren, I thought to myself, okay, Ben Askren is primarily a wrestler, but he's been boxing his whole life because no matter how you cut it, if you're going to do MMA, you're going to have to box, right? Turns out Ben Askren sucks and he got his ass whooped, right? Then Tyron Woodley surely was going to beat Jake Paul, and I don't need to continue on and on and on about how Jake Paul has been ending MMA careers of, alleged MMA goats, right? Oh, but hater, if it was an MMA fight, Anderson Silva would kick his leg. If it was an MMA fight, Jake Paul would knock him out. The same thing would happen. He didn't, even though I don't think he knocked out Anderson. The point stands, right? Like there's levels to this, right? And the reality is, and I know it's difficult for people, the reality is that Jake Paul and Logan Paul are legitimate athletes, right? They are athletic, right? They've proven this. Oh, Jake Paul only fights old men. No, he doesn't only fight old men. He fought Tommy Fury, nearly beat him. He fought, Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva are, of course, a little bit old, but he has fought plenty of people that were in their so-called almost primes, right? Like, people forget that before Tyron Woodley lost like 3 fights, people were saying he's the best fighter on the planet. Right? And Jake Paul beat him only a few years after. So this idea that Jake Paul is like this jobber is absurd, right? We have new information now. Same thing with Logan Paul. Now, with Logan Paul, it's a little bit different because Logan Paul is in pro wrestling primarily at this point, right? So we have to judge him on other things, right? We can't just judge him only on his athleticism. We have to judge him on his charisma, crowd control, all of the things, his appeal, his look, etc. So during this promo, first of all, he gets massive heat, right? That's his job. So I don't think anyone can argue he's not doing that. He's about a foot taller than Cody Rhodes. Like, he just looks like a bigger dude next to Cody Rhodes. But that's not here nor there, right? I get it. He's the new kid on the block. He hasn't paid his dues. We've gone over how the hater feels about paying one's dues. Now, on the other side of the bracket, we got Cody Rhodes, Rody Chodes, whatever we're calling him today, right? Cody Rhodes pretty much cuts a Gunther-like promo. Cody Rhodes' point primarily seems to be that the ring is sacred and that Logan Paul doesn't take it seriously, and he dares to call Logan Paul a part-timer. Are you kidding me? Cody Rhodes is a part-timer. Nevertheless, we're going to get through that, right? But Cody Rhodes, he's really buying into his own bullshit, right? He really thinks he's like this once-in-a-generation wrestler. Like, it's almost like he's completely unaware of the fact that if it weren't for the fact that his dad was a mid-card jobber as well, he would never get a chance in this company, right? Okay, that's actually not fair. Like, let's be honest. Cody Rhodes would get a chance, right? But he wouldn't be WWE champion. He would have like a decent career, like a Kofi Kingston-esque career, the career that he was meant to have before he left and he bet on himself, which really pisses me off because people act like he's the first guy to bet on himself, right? People don't even understand what that means. I saw this guy on YouTube. He was like, I bet on myself and now my bosses respect me more. Like, what? That's not betting on yourself. If you have a boss, you didn't bet on yourself. If you have a boss, you're betting on your boss. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The point being that this promo really reeked of Cody Rhodes' main attribute, which is entitlement, right? He pretty much told Logan Paul that Logan Paul will never be on his level until he takes it seriously. What the fuck are you talking about? He's already better than Cody Rhodes. Like, objectively speaking, he's better than Cody Rhodes. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to accept this, right? Because, in the real world, people really want you to believe that hard work is extremely important, and it is. I'm not saying it's not, right? But people really overestimate the importance of hard work. Talent and luck are far more important, right? Are we to believe that Cody Rhodes works harder today than he did when he was Stardust? Absolutely not, he doesn't. Like, we all know that's not true, because as Stardust, he was trying to do character work. As undashing Cody Rhodes, he was doing good character work. Now, all he does is come out and cut like the same John Cena promo we've heard for 15 years. I'm better than you, and I do it for the people. Like, it's basically what Cody Rhodes is now, right? He's not working harder. He's just luckier at this point, right? His time has come, if you will, but it's not because he improved, right? Nobody can point to anything that Cody Rhodes did to improve. He didn't do anything to improve. He just left and he came back, just like Drew McIntyre. At least Drew McIntyre got in better shape. But even that, he didn't get into like much better shape. He just came back later. That's all there is to it. He came back and people forgot about him, so now they can reintroduce him. That's all that happened, right? Meanwhile, Logan Paul has taken to this business much faster than Cody, obviously, right? He's much more charismatic than Cody was in the beginning, right? He's much more talented. He's 100 times more athletic. He beat his ass in real life. He's bigger. He's better in basically every attribute, right? So this idea that Cody Rhodes can talk down to him really kind of reminds me of Triple H. Like, Triple H, one of my personal favorites, of course, but Triple H was never the guy, right? Triple H was always punching above his weight class. Like, Stone Cold was better than him. John Cena was better than him. Shawn Michaels was better than him. The Rock, obviously, was better than him. The Undertaker player was better than him. A lot of people were better than Triple H. Jericho was better than him. Triple H is great, don't get me wrong. But he always had this chip on his shoulder because he, quite frankly, wasn't that great. Like, he, definitely a main eventer, don't get me wrong, like definitely better than Cody Rhodes, but he wasn't like an elite A1 player. Like, if you ask people who's on the Mount Rushmore, no one's going to seriously put Triple H there because he didn't really do anything. He was just there. Like, but it's not here or there. Triple H always had this entitlement, right? He always had this I'm better than you mentality, and this showed in his promos. There's certain things that Triple H is allowed to say that people like Logan Paul are not allowed to say. Like, for example, Logan Paul, like, if this was a real promo, if this was like a shoot promo, Logan Paul would be like, look, kid, let's be real. Despite your father being Dusty Rhodes, you were saddled with a gimmick called Stardust, right? You were made an ass out of for 15 years. You had to go wrestle in the independents, in the little leagues, right? And then every other star that was around when you should have gotten big had to go through this company first, right? John Cena had to finish his career. Randy Orton is on the ass end of his career. Roman Reigns is basically leaving, right? And now finally, after all these people have had their opportunities, it's now your 15 minutes of fame, right? Because Cody Rhodes is not going to be this perpetual, like a long-term main eventer because, quite frankly, he doesn't have a long-term future career because he's like almost 40, right? So Logan Paul could just say that and be like, whereas he can say, I'm 28, I've boxed Mayweather, right? I've achieved so many things, and I did all of this without having a fat-ass jobber father, right? If he wanted to, he could say that, right? But he can't. That's the problem with the booking of this match, right? Like, and I get it, of course, I'm not stupid. I understand Logan Paul is a heel, right? And he's one type of heel. He's not like The Miz or MJF, right? But you ask yourself, people are like, MJF is changing the game. The only thing about MJF is that he's allowed to say things that other people are not allowed to say. You think if R-Truth was a heel and he was given carte blanche to say whatever the fuck he wants, he couldn't do what MJF does? He would do it 100 times better. The only difference is that they give MJF the opportunity to do this. They gave it to The Miz to a certain degree. WWE, it's much harder, obviously, right? But they're not giving it to Logan Paul. So whereas Cody Rhodes can humiliate himself by checking Logan Paul for brass knucks, by the way, what the fuck is that all about, right? It's like, I'm going to prove that you have brass knucks. Okay, great. Wow, what a fighting champion, right? Cody Rhodes can do all that, but the fact remains the fact. Logan Paul cannot say to Cody Rhodes, dude, you're 40 years old, you finally made it, and you got it out of nepotism, let's be honest, right? You didn't deserve this shit. You left this company, you broke a throne, how cringe was that? Then you cut a promo about having an interracial child, and you had a gender reveal on the episode of that bullshit show. He could say all these things, right? Like, if I were there cutting a promo against Cody, and I could say whatever I wanted, these are the things that I would say because he would have no answer to them, right? But because the booking is done in such a way where Logan Paul and every heel has to remain mild, while Cody Rhodes essentially breaks kayfabe and says things like, oh, your brother's gonna get knocked out by Mike Tyson. Like, what does that have to do with anything? Cody Rhodes' brother is a fucking perennial jobber. You know, if we're talking about brothers, like imagine that. Imagine if Cody Rhodes says, your brother Jake Paul is going to get knocked out by Mike Tyson. And like Logan Paul could just be like, your brother is going to go job to Jay White. Like, are you kidding me? Like, he could just say that, like, your brother works in a bullshit company. He's a perennial jobber. My brother, like Logan Paul could legit say, my brother would kick your brother's ass. My brother would kick your daddy's ass. My brother would kick your ass. He'd kick everyone's ass in your family, right? He could say that, but he's not allowed to, right? And that's the problem with the entire Cody Rhodes build. The entire Cody Rhodes build is predicated upon Cody Rhodes can say whatever the fuck he wants, but nobody else can challenge him, right? It's just like a Triple H build, right? Once in a while, they would let like a CM Punk or something like that say like, you slept your way to the top, Triple H, shame on you, right? But even that, it was just like a one-off type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't do that. They would have to talk about how Stephanie McMahon's a slut. They had to stick to kayfabe, right? Like, the reality is, like, Triple H was never as over as Stone Cold or The Rock, right? But they can't say that, right? They're the faces. They can't be like, I'm more over than you, kid, right? Like, Logan Paul can be like, look, Cody Rhodes, you're over, but the fans are going to turn on you. We all know it, right? They're like, the company's doing their best to prevent this from happening, but it's going to happen, right? But he's not allowed to say that. And that's the problem with this, right? Cody Rhodes' championship run has become a very John Cena Triple H championship run. And we all know how those went. Triple H reign of terror, John Cena reign of terror. People don't like these things in hindsight, right? That's why Roman Reigns was so effective, because he didn't say much, right? He was a heel champion with a long reign, right? Heel champions with long reigns, unless they're Triple H, are interesting, right? Triple H is not, because Triple H would just say the same things. I'm the game. You know what I mean? Like, and he would just cut that shit, and everybody kind of knew that the underpinnings were like, about Triple H, like, he's great and everything, like, everyone loves Triple H, but he's getting a lot more props than he deserves. You know what I mean? Triple H had like so many career moments that like he probably shouldn't have had. Like, in the middle of Brock Lesnar's like monster run, Triple H beat him at WrestleMania, which was a great moment. Like, one of my favorite matches of that year's WrestleMania, right? Because I love Triple H, but it's like it really derailed a little bit Brock Lesnar's, you know, like long-term or mid-term momentum, right? He beat Sting. People didn't like that, right? It is what it is. But the facts are what the facts are. Triple H is in this position because of his proximity to the McMahon family. It's not necessarily because he slept his way to the top, because Vince McMahon could have easily just chosen him. Like Triple H says, I was already working with Vince. That's the real issue. The issue is he was just working with Vince, right? He was already the golden boy, right? And that's fine. Someone has to be the golden boy. And he did, you know, to his credit, Triple H, when Stone Cold and like fucking The Rock, and even Brock Lesnar, and to a lesser degree Goldberg and Jericho, when all these guys left, Triple H stuck around, right? And he was instrumental. And Shawn Michaels came back. Like, they don't get the credit they deserve, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Undertaker, for sticking around during that time period where everyone left. Like, they were the only reliable names, right? Until you had to push like JBL and John Cena and Orton, Batista. All these guys had to be made into stars. And almost all of them were made into stars by Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and The Undertaker player. Like, this is just a fact. So, you know, at least Triple H has done that. Cody Rhodes is never going to have the opportunity to do that, because, quite frankly, Cody Rhodes is never going to be as big of a star as even Triple H. And with that being said, Cody Rhodes sucks. Take it, motherfucks.